Okay. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, guys, so continuing on with our first week of class, somebody actually gave me a heads up that there was a mistake in the notes yesterday where it said that pure Arab names are indefinite. Someone was asking, is that an error? Yes, that is an error. And thank you for pointing that out. Remember, when it comes to names in general, since it's referring to a specific person, it's going to be definite by nature. And since we're putting these notes together in class and they're being produced live, sometimes there's small things that could definitely slip through. So if you see me making a mistake, please remind me. I really appreciate it. Alhamdulillah. So I'm going to go back and try and fix that error in the notes from yesterday. Jazakallah khairan. Okay. Yeah, Sapar, that's no problem, man. Don't worry. Okay. All right. So getting back into the mix of it, what we've covered so far as a review generally. So we started off initially our discussion by talking about the three types of words, right? And we said in the Arabic language, there are three types. There's the fi'l, which is like an action word. Then there is a harf, which is, in English, a particle. But in reality, we said it's like an impactor word. It's a small word that has an impact on a word that comes after it. And then after that, there's the ism, which is usually in English, a person, place, or thing, because it's considered a noun. But in reality, we said it's a little bit more broader than that. So we called it a supernoun. So it would fall under the aspect of anything that is not a harf or a fi'l. So for some examples of verbs, we had things such as, and I'll zoom in here, by the way. We had things such as kasara, which means he broke, right? And we said, interestingly enough, when you translate this single word in Arabic into English, it has a doer embedded in it. So this one word is actually two in English. Now, as we said before, this doer can actually be changed based on the conjugation of the verb itself. So if I wanted to make this female, the way that I would do that is actually to add a ta with a sukoon onto the end. I would make it kasarat, and then it would become she broke, right? And this is consistent for all past tense verbs, which is what we've been working with right now. We've only been talking about verbs in the past. So kasarat would be she broke. Ja'ala is he made. So if I wanted to make it she made, I would just simply say ja'alat with the ta on the end, and it would become she made. Right? Let's highlight that as well. And then again, for this one, same pattern, nothing's going to change. Ba, ra, bet, and it becomes she it. Right? So this idea of conjugating verbs, it's really just about changing simple things in the form, which we'll study in more detail soon. Right now, since we covered gender yesterday, I just wanted to show you how that manifests with a verb, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, how that will change in terms of a sentence, inshallah. So right now, to make a past tense verb, female, what do you got to do? Throw a ta with the sukoon on the end. So kasarat. Okay, in terms of the harf, some simple examples. We have things such as fi, which means in, ala, which means upon, and wa, which means and. One thing that I want to point out, and this is something that we're going to start slowly seeing, is that these harf are a little bit tricky. In essence, it doesn't always mean in. Fi doesn't always mean in. Ala doesn't always mean upon, right? These meanings can change depending on the context that they're used in, and the dictionary will teach you to do it. So right now, we're just giving you a base meaning on this, but inshallah ta'ala, it's going to shift as time goes on, as you become a little bit more experienced. Now, in terms of nouns, one example here would be muslima, right? Muslimatun, which would translate to Muslim, but you guys tell me, is that a female Muslim or a male Muslim? Wait, hold on. Zark's in this class? Is that you, Sohaib? Okay, nice. Good stuff, guys. Yeah, so it's female. And it's female on the basis of the ta marbuta on the end, right? Okay. Just a heads up, guys, if you can, try to keep your names consistent just to what your name is. Just it'll help me to remember names, because a lot of names to remember right now. Okay, then we have al-yaddu, right, which is hand. You guys tell me, why is this female? Why? Like, what's going on here that makes it female? Yeah, good stuff. Don't just say body part. It's not just the body part. Yeah, okay, good stuff. Because it's a body part in pair. As we mentioned yesterday, when you have two hands, and because of that, the hand will be treated as if it's feminine on the basis of the fact that a pair exists with it. Same with the ears, same with the eyes, right? But something like the nose, the anf, would be a different story because there's only one, so therefore it would be masculine, right? It's a weird thing, but that's just kind of how it works. Does this work for biology, as in like chromosomes? Honestly, I have no idea. Haven't read any biological works as of yet to see if that rule remains consistent. And considering a lot of that work is more nuanced work, it may not be the scenario that they stay consistent with the traditional rule, right? Because what we're learning is Fusha, right? And this is the rules that apply in Fusha. So classical Arabic may not be what aligns with modern day Arabic, but we'd have to see. Sharabun, which is an ism, it would just simply mean drink, right? Or a drink. And you guys tell me, is this indefinite or definite? Right. Okay, cool. It's indefinite. And we know that because it has the tanween ending, right? Awesome. So after we figured out the three types of words, we were able to string them together to begin to start creating types of sentences. And the two types that we're dealing with are the jumla ismiya and the jumla fi'liya. How do I distinguish which one is which? Like what's the giveaway, guys? Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Okay, so we determine what type of sentence it is based on the word it begins with. So if it begins with an ism, then it's a jumla ismiya, right? It's a nominal sentence. If it begins with a verb, then it's a jumla fi'liya, right? So the beginning will tell the story of the sentence. Now, when it comes to the jumla ismiya, we have two parts. We have our mubtada, which is known as the subject in English, meaning the thing that you're focusing on. And there's two components to it. Before we used to say that we'd look out for a dhamma ending, but we've grown a little bit, right? We've talked about the three types of statuses. And what we know now is that that means that it's in a state of rafa, right? So it's going to be in a state of rafa as well as being definite, right? So this example here, al-baytu, I know that this is my mubtada. Why? Because it's definite and this is signified by al, and it's in a state of rafa, which is signified by the dhamma. So two things that you look out for, you see that, check mark. You got your mubtada. Now, the predicate or the khabar in Arabic is going to be rafa as well. So we have our dhamma ending, but it will also be indefinite, which is usually signified by a tanween. And one thing that we learned yesterday is that the gender of the subject will have to be matched, right? So we were doing some examples yesterday at the end of class where we were matching the gender of the khabar to the gender of the mubtada. So their genders will have to be the same. So if your mubtada has a ta marbuta and it's feminine, guess what? Your khabar will probably also have to have a ta marbuta if it's feminine as well. And one thing that we'll learn today is that the number has to match as well. And if you can align all four of these things, you have a mubtada khabar combination, right? Okay, so for the verbal sentence or the jumla fi'liya, it's going to begin with a fi'il. So with your verb itself, that's going to come in the very beginning. Then there's going to be a fa'il, right? Your doer, because whenever you see a verbal sentence, you got to ask, coming after my verb, who is my doer and who is my receiver, right? And your doer is going to be known by the fact that they're in a state of rafa, meaning they have that dhamma ending right there. And one thing I wanted to add to this is that the gender must match as well, right? Your fa'il must match your fa'il in gender. So in this example here, Zainab, right? She's female. Because of that, that the verb itself must be made female, right? Simple concept there. So they have to match, just like the mubtada and khabar have to match. Somebody asked, does the fi'il have a consistent status? I.e., is this verb here rafa, nasab, or jar? You guys tell me. All these verbs that we've studied so far, what state do you guys think they're in? Is it rafa, nasab, or jar? Nice. Okay, so most of you guys said nasab, right? And if this was an ism, you'd be correct, 100%. However, this is a verb. And when it comes to verbs, there is no concept of status. Doesn't happen. That's a thing reserved only for isms. It's not coming in to the past tense verb. We'll learn in the future different wow, people don't like being tricked. I'm sorry. It's just it's kind of fun. We'll learn in the future particular types of verbs that can actually have statuses. But for the past tense verb, the verb that we've been dealing with right now, there's no status. Nothing. Doesn't exist, right? So yeah, that was a good question. And then to cap it off, the maf'ul, the thing that's receiving the action, which we discussed yesterday, this is not just limited to the receiver. It can also be like a detail, be like a time, or it could be a position that somebody was made. In the example that we had seen where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes Adam a khalifa, right? That was like a detail. So it's a little bit more expansive than a receiver. But right now we're just focusing on that one type. But anyway, the maf'ul is going to be in a state of nasb, which is known by the fatha ending, right? Could you put that in the notes? Verbs do not generally have a status. Yeah, that's no problem. I will put that down here. By the way, if there's anything you guys need me to insert into the notes, just let me know, because together we're refining this, inshallah. So for future people, future batches, it's helpful. And also for yourselves too. So status will not apply to the past tense verb. Okay, cool. All right, then after discussing the two types of sentences, we got into the different properties of an ism, because that's going to tell you what exactly the meaning of that ism is. And we talked about first definiteness. And we said for this property, it breaks into two parts. There's indefinite, meaning the thing that you're talking about is not specific, right? If I said like a apple, that's general. If I said go get me a apple, it could be any apple from the basket. Whereas if I had said go get me the apple, then it would be a specific apple from the basket, right? So indefinite, it's not specific. Definite, it is specific. And how can we know something is indefinite? Well, it usually has a tanween ending. But one of the things we're going to cover today as well is that it can also just simply have no alif lam, right? And that's the sign that you'll utilize to look for, right? And the reason why that is, why we have to signify that, is because certain words, as we're going to learn moving forward, just don't take tanween. Like they never will. It's just impossible for it to do it. So when we come across a word like that, what we have to look for is the fact that alif lam is not there, right? So if there's a tanween ending or there's no alif lam, that's a good indication that you're dealing with an ism that is indefinite. The other case that we learned, so this shouldn't be here. I'll fix that. The other case that we learned is for definite, where it's dealing with something specific, right? And that's going to be where it has an alif lam on it, or it's a proper name. And a third one I wanted to add in here right now is a pronoun, right? We're going to study pronouns in detail soon, inshallah ta'ala, but I wanted to make it clear that pronouns are definite as well. So he, she, you, they, we, us, all of those things are referring to something that you know, right? And huwa is the pronoun for he. So that's just an FYI. Okay, so just some examples of words here that essentially are indefinite, even though they don't take tanween. An example of this would be a word like muslimani, right? It has an ani ending, and it can't take a tanween on it. It's not going to happen, right? We'll learn this soon. So this is actually indefinite, and I can tell that just simply based off of the fact that there's no alif lam, right? Or in this case here, right, there's no diacritical marks. And one of the things you're going to have to do in the future is learn to read without diacritical marks, right? And there's not going to be a tanween written there for you. So what you can actually look out for is the alif lam, and that will tell you that it's definite, right? And the same goes for this example over here, right? So there's just some instances where we'll have to look to the fact that alif lam is not there to designate that the word is indefinite. Okay, so ism property number 2 was status, and we said that status is going to tell you the purpose of a word in a sentence, right? And remember, this applies to isms, not to past tense verbs like we've been looking at, all right? So there was 3. There's rafa', nasab, and jar. And rafa' is known by the dhamma ending, while nasab is known by the fatha ending, and jar is known by the kasra ending. And we said there's 3 instances that we know so far where rafa applies, and that's with the subject of a nominal sentence, a predicate, and the doer of a verbal sentence, right? And then for nasab, we've only looked at 1 instance right now out of like 12 in the entire language, which is the receiver or the maf'ul of a verbal sentence. And then again, for jar, we talked about prepositions in light detail. Haven't done a deep dive on that yet, right? So yesterday, we covered gender, and we talked about the 8 instances in which a word is going to be female. And you guys tell me, words by default, are they male or female? Boy, okay. Yeah, okay, good stuff. Yeah, they're male. They are male by default. Good stuff. So the 4 instances that we talked about that could be known by looking at the word, right, is when it ends with a ta marbuta. An example of this would be a word such as Fatima. It's very common with female names that they end with a ta marbuta. That's why you always hear the little ha sound on the end of it, right? Such as, Fatima, Khadija, Sadiqa. It's because of that ta marbuta that's existed there on the end telling us that. Okay, the next one that we covered was alif maqsura, which is like the short alif, which is used at the end of certain words. So like bushra, husna, yusra, right? And that can be there to represent femininity. Then we had the alif mamduda, such as in a word like sahra'un, right? Which means desert. And that's just simply an alif followed by a hamza. Then we talked about the broken plural in quite a lot of detail, right? And we said plurals in Arabic can be divided into sound plurals and broken plurals. And quite frankly, it's just the same as English for the most part. A sound plural is when you put on the end simply just an S, while as in Arabic, you put an una or an ina on the end, but the actual form of the word is preserved, right? In English, it would be something like, in English, it would be something like, the example we use, like you could use just, book, 2 books, right? That's a sound plural. Whereas a broken plural is where the actual construction of the word changes, versus like mouse versus mice, right? In Arabic, it'd be something like kitabun versus kutubun. We've actually deleted a part of the word. Therefore, it would be a broken plural. How would you know if a broken plural is actually plural? If you came across like a random word and you weren't sure if that was a broken plural or not, one of the first things you have to do is hop into the dictionary, and then that would show you if it's broken or not. And it would show you if it's a plural or not. Does the alif mamduda make the word feminine? In a lot of cases it does, but not in every case. Inshallah, we'll study that in the future. Okay. So, meaning you can't just look at the appearance to know this. You have to actually know what the word means. Names of places is one of those examples. So Misr, Saudi, Iraq, Canada, Inkaltur, which is England. All of these things are going to be feminine, right? Because it's a name of a place. Mississauga is going to be a name of a place. Body parts in pairs, which a lot of you guys seem to understand. I really stress this one because it weirds a lot of people out. It's a strange one. So like rijal, which is leg. Then we had an interesting case, which is that the Arab said so. And we made a little comment on language, the fact that language is something that isn't necessarily taught through structures originally, right? It's something that people speak and then they pass down traditionally. And because of that, we're going to find certain things that just break rules, right? And there's people who have theorized on this, like Ibn Hisham and others. They've written philosophical and philological texts on the nature of why these things connect. We wrote a small poem that we'll give to you, inshallah ta'ala, that covers some of the most common ones so that you know. Then we had female only, so parts like of a woman that can apply to a male. An example of this would be the womb, which is rahim in Arabic, taken directly from the Hadith Qudsi. Okay, let's do a little bit of practice here. Someone's asking, can we have multiple signs of femininity in the same sentence? Yes, because if you have multiple feminine words, then why not, right? Okay. So you guys tell me, the word here is wasi'atun. I know I spelled this with a sod on the notes yesterday. That was a mistake. It's actually with a sin. Jazakallahu khairan for those who corrected me on that. I really appreciate that. So it's wasi'atin. You guys tell me, what are the properties here? What's the definiteness? What's the gender? What's the status? Like for definiteness, put like D or ID. For gender, put M or F. And then for status, put R, F, or sorry, R, J, or N. Okay, stuff. Yeah, okay, cool. So it's indefinite, and it is female, and it's in a state of jar. How can I tell these things? I know this is indefinite because it has a tanween ending. There's also a lack of alif lam there. I know that it's female because of that ta marbuta ending, and I know it's in a state of jar because of the kasra ending, right? It's a giveaway there. Okay, how about this word here? Al-aynah, right? Ayn means eye. Yeah, okay, cool. So first off, we know it's definite. Why do we know that? Because it has the alif lam. So it's, the eye. Then we know that it's female, right? Why? Because it's a body part that has a pair. You got two sets of eyes, right? And then again, we know it's in a state of nasb because of that fatha upon the end. Okay. How about al-bi'ru, which means well? Okay, that's a good question. Somebody asked for al-ain. Wouldn't it be male because it's being mentioned alone? It's not being mentioned with its pair. So actually, no. Just because it has a pair, even if it's mentioned alone, it will still be feminine. Good question. Okay, cool. All right, so al-bi'ru, it's going to be definite. And some of you guys got this. I'm really happy you remember this, but it's going to be female. Why is it female? Because the Arab said so, right? And the last is that it's urafa, right? That was kind of like a trick question then. Okay. Last one here. Khalifatun. Yeah, so someone's asking, how is it feminine here? It's feminine because the Arab said so. That's simply it. For definite, yes, Aziz. Yes, that is the case. Abdul Aziz. Alif Lam will translate to the. Okay, cool. All right, so I think I didn't trick one guy or two guys. Yeah, someone's asking, can you give us a list of because the Arab said so? Inshallah ta'ala soon. Okay, so Khalifatun, as you guys said, it is indefinite, which is correct. It is not female. It is actually male. So remember the rule that we taught yesterday, that there's going to be particular words that even though they bear the signs of femininity, they will still be male because they are inherently male. And we never had a female Khalifa, actually. This is actually just an inherently male title, even though it has a sign of femininity, right? And it's in a state of rafa. Okay. Can we say it is grammatically female? No, it would still be grammatically male. All right, so if you try and describe it, if you talk about it in terms of like, if I wanted to say the Khalifa is, is great, then that great that's used would be masculine to describe it. Good question. Okay. All right, so let's get into the content for today. Okay, so ism property number 4, which is number. right? So as mentioned before, there are 4 properties of an ism, right? And I hope this is kind of drilled into your head by now, right? So we have definiteness, we have number, which we're going to cover right now. We have status, and finally gender, right? Yeah, the acronym I gave you guys are like DNS-G. That helps you remember it. But every ism that you look at is going to have this, right? You're going to have to be able to identify these 4 qualities in it, right? So when it comes to number, each ism will either be singular, dual, or plural. And that might sound strange because in English, we're used to just the concept of singular and plural, right? Singular is, 1, of course. Plural in English is 2 or more. 2 or more. However, in Arabic, a jama'a, a plural, a jam, is 3 or more. And there's actually an entire section just for 2, right? So it's a little bit different in English in that way, right? So I'll just make note there. Arabic has a unique dual form, right? So the number of an ism will be known by its ending in most cases. Let's actually delve into what that looks like. I'll you guys out a chart. Okay. Small point here, and it will appear differently based on gender and status. So the idea is with this chart that's being presented towards you, I'm going to give you guys 3 charts. They're going to show you how an ism will change when it's in rafa, nasab, or jar across being singular, dual, and plural. The first chart's going to show you how it looks when it's a sound plural, meaning we're just attaching something onto the end. Then I'll show you what it looks like when it's a sound plural female. And then finally, when it's a broken plural, inshallah. You guys have to commit these charts to memory because if you know this chart like the back of your hand, then you'll know you'll be able to sit there and figure out when you look at an ism, is this rafa and then is it plural? Is this rafa and then is it dual? Is it nasab? Is it dual? Is it plural? Right? It'll help you in that way. So let's go through it. Muslimun, which you guys are aware of. You've seen that before, right? Muslimun. But what happens when we take an ism that's in a state of rafa and we bring it into the dual? Well, it's going to actually take on an ani ending. Muslimani, right? Muslimani, right? And this will now mean 2 Muslims, right? So this is Muslim, this is 2 Muslims. Ani for rafa. Okay. What are the Arabic words for singular, dual, and plural? So singular is mufrad, dual is muthanna, and plural is jama'. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we have muslimun, muslimani, and then for the plural here, this is muslimuna, right? It's an una ending, right? So we're going to be dealing with rafa for an un ending when it's singular, for an ani ending when it's dual, and for an una ending when it's plural. So this means Muslim, this means 2 Muslims, and this means Muslims, in bracket you could say 3 or more, right? And this is only for the state of rafa when it is masculine, right? So guys, take a minute, commit that to memory. Just say to yourself, Muslimun, Muslimani, Muslimuna, Muslimun, Muslimani, Muslimuna. Okay? Yeah, that's a good question. What does it mean for an ism to be in a particular status? So remember what we said when it comes to status, that's going to tell you the role of the word in a sentence, right? So if it's rafa, it has a good chance that it's going to be your subject, or it's going to be your predicate, or it's going to be your doer. And the signs of them, right? Originally we said it was dhamma, that only represented the singular. Now we're saying in the dual it's ani, and then in the plural it's una. That's a good question. Riyad asks, are they all indefinite? You should be able to answer that, Riyad. You see an alif lam, any alif lam, any alif lam. We'll cover that soon, inshallah. Okay, cool. Good stuff, guys. So let's hop into the nasb. That's going to be musliman on the singular. And then on the dual, it will be muslimaini, right? It's an aini ending. Aini ending. Can't seem to get that fatha, but imagine it's highlighted, right? Aini ending on the dual. And then in the plural, it's muslimina, right? So musliman in the singular, muslimaini in the dual, muslimina, ina ending in the plural for nasb. And the easy thing here is that for nasb and jar, for the dual and plural, it literally just repeats. And then the singular here, it is muslimin, right? So the usual question that's asked is, well, how the heck am I going to tell the difference between a dual and plural when it's in nasb versus when it's in jar? Well, context is going to tell you that, right? When you look at the sentence in context, then you'll be able to figure it out. So guys, take 2 minutes and try and commit this to memory. So muslimun, muslimani, muslimuna, musliman, muslimaini, muslimina, muslimin, muslimaini, muslimina, right? Just say it like 10 times to yourself. Yeah, I can say it again, no problem. Muslimun, muslimani, muslimuna, musliman, muslimaini, muslimina, muslimin, muslimaini, muslimina, right? So the endings is what you want to hear. You want to hear that ani, you want to hear that una, that aini, that ina, right? Because whatever the word is, I could change this to mu'min, so it can become mu'minun, right? Or mu'minani, mu'minuna. You want to be able to hear that ending because it will tell you the story. Okay, cool. So let's go on to the female rendition of this now. Okay, sound plural, female, female. Okay, so in the singular, it's nothing too crazy, just going to be muslimatun, as we've seen before, right? That's a female Muslim. Muslimatin, again, female Muslim, muslimatin. Small note here, I know it's only showing one diacritical mark on the bottom as opposed to two. Word does that all the time. Unfortunately, it just cuts it off. So you got to just be aware of that, inshallah. Okay, so muslimatun, muslimatan, muslimatin. So when it's in a state of rafa and it's female, how will it look in the dual? Same thing as the masculine. All you do is just add an ani to it. So it becomes muslimatani, muslimatani. Again, it's just an ani ending that's added to it. Now this means two female Muslims, right? A female Muslim, two female Muslims. Now, when it comes into the plural, what it will do is that it's going to take an atun ending. Muslimatun. And this means three or more female Muslims, right? So muslimatun, female Muslim, muslimatani, ani ending, two female Muslims, muslimatun, atun ending, three or more female Muslims, right? Okay. Then in this instance here for the dual, it's going to be similar again to the male. You just add an aini ending, so muslima, taini, right? Muslima, taini. Again, it's going to repeat for the jar, same thing. And then for the plural for nasab and jar, it becomes an atin ending for the females. So muslimatin. And then again, muslimatin. So I'll say the whole chart one time. Muslimatun, muslimatani, muslimatin. Oh, sorry, atun, right? Muslimatan, muslimataini, muslimatin, muslimatin, muslimataini, muslimatin. Okay, guys, take 2 minutes and just go over it. Try and memorize it. Oh, that's a good question, Sister Maheen. I'll answer that after everybody just goes over it a couple times. When are we getting into pronouns? Inshallah ta'ala, I believe next week we should be doing that. It's either late next week or early the week after, inshallah. Yeah, I know you're talking about the pronoun song. Someone asked, do you know the pronoun song? Yes, I know the pronoun song, but I'm not going to sing it. Okay, alhamdulillah. Good stuff, guys. If you got it down, can you drop a 1 in the chat? Okay, cool. And if you don't got it down, don't worry. Take some time after class and commit it to memory, inshallah ta'ala, right? Okay. Sapar, could you clarify where your confusion is? Okay. Yeah, okay, that's a good question. So just to respond to that, are they the states of words in different locations in sentences? So they're the state of the word, which will tell you the role of the word in the sentence, right? So as we said for the mubtada, it's in a state of rafa. As we said for the khabar, it's in a state of rafa. Seeing that in the state of rafa is going to be what tells us what its role is in the sentence. Someone's asking, are these notes available for printing? Yeah, guys, the entire Word document of all these notes are available to you guys. Feel free to change whatever you want, delete whatever you want. Shape it as what you need it to be. It's all raw in there for you guys to benefit from. Okay, let's talk about the broken plural. And you guys tell me, broken plurals usually, are they masculine or feminine? Feminine. Okay, good stuff. All right, then let's run through this. So, classic example, kitab, kitabun, right? This means a book. Want to make it dual? Not much is going to change here from what we know before. Add an "ani" ending, becomes 2 books. But when it's plural, since it's a broken plural, right? We're going to have to tear it open and reconstruct it. It becomes kutubun, right? And this is the broken plural form. So for broken plurals, they actually just look the same as the singular, right? They just get a tanween ending, or they just get like a regular dhamma ending, and that shows that it's in a state of rafa. Same thing, right? And so this will be kutu ban, and then this would be this would be itaban, ba, and then this one would be, as we've seen before, kitabaini, right? It's just like a regular ism. Then it would be kutuban, right? Looks just like the singular. And we have kitabin, and then just copy and paste, kitabaini, and then kutubin. So there's really nothing to memorize here. It's just remembering that the broken plural is going to be treated similar to the singular version of it. So if you want to figure out the status, all you got to really look for is the dhamma, fatha, kasra. And that's what's going to tell you on the broken plural, right? Okay. Okay, cool. So let's talk about something that's really important here. So, no, then, we. So I think there's a question there. Is this kind of like an irregular word? Does this apply to all isms with broken plurals? Yes, it does apply to all isms with broken plurals. This would be consistent across broken plurals, inshallah. Okay. Plurals. So someone's asking, knowing the different broken plurals only comes from exposure to the language, or is there a trick to knowing the different ones? So there's actually patterns that we'll learn, like fu'ulun, af'alun, fu'ulun, right? There's patterns that exist, and we'll give you a sheet that indicates some of the major patterns. But to be honest, as you read the language more, you just kind of get used to it. And the dictionary is a good fallback when you come across a word. It will tell you if it's a broken plural or not. Okay. So, call before that we had said a word can be known, sorry, an ism can be identified as indefinite if it has a tanween ending. However, there are certain words that cannot bear the tanween. They're just not going to take it. In those instances, we will know it as indefinite by the omission of alif lam. And as we covered above, words that have any endings, right? Or they have una endings for plural, or they have ina endings. These words will not take tanween. You guys memorized it. There's no tanween there, right? These are indefinite words, but there's no tanween that's there, right? How will we know that it's definite or indefinite? The fact that there's no alif lam. So if I just said, al-muslimani, then I'd know it's definite. If I delete that, it's just muslimani, right? So that's a small thing to keep in mind there. The only one that doesn't apply, right, where a tanween can be taken, is actually the sound plural female, which is the atun or the atin ending. So if I put alif lam on this, right? If I were to put alif lam on this, then we'd get rid of that tanween that's there, right? And it become muslimati, or sorry, muslimatu. So just want you to keep in mind that rule there. Okay, cool. Now we got to ask the big question, which is, what is the impact on sentences, right? Well, as we learned before, just how the mubtada and khabar will match in gender, so the subject and predicate in a nominal sentence, the subject and predicate will also match in number, right? So let's take a look at some examples of that. I'm gonna put this under the sentences to master section. Remember, guys, at the end of every lesson, there will be a sentence to master section, which if you understand these sentences and how they work and what's going on, then you've got the essence of the actual lesson, right? Are the words that don't bear the tanween kind of just a learn with time thing? No, we'll actually give you an entire list moving forward, inshallah ta'ala, of those things. Okay. All right, so the student is present, singular, right? And it's a nominal sentence. So if I wanted to type this out, it would be al-talibu, right? Which is the student. And then my khabar would be hadirun, right? Same exact formula that we've been following right now. We have a mubtada here that's definite. I know that because of the alif lam. Then we have a khabar that's indefinite. And I know that because of the tanween. Both are in a state of rafa, right? And it's just talking about a single student. The student is present. What if I wanted to up this to the two scholars are students, right? So I want to talk about two now. Well, we'd use our ani ending. So it'd become al-talibani, right? Ani ending because it's in a state of rafa. Talibani. And then my khabar would have to match it as well. Hadirani, right? So it become, or I should say here, the two students are present. And then the students are present. Sorry about that typo. So at-talibani hadirani, which means the two students are present, right? And then what if we wanted to do three or more? Well, now we'd have to insert the una ending. So it'd become at-talibuna and then حاضرون. رون. Right? So the mubtada and the khabar are matching. This one is definite with alif lam, right? And it's in a state of rafa. Even though there's no dhamma ending here, I know to look for the una ending, and that will show it's in a state of rafa. Therefore, it is my mubtada, right? And then hadiruna, in this case, I know that it's indefinite, even though it doesn't have a double ending. Why do I know that? Because there's no alif lam there, right? Okay, and then let's feminize this. So what if we wanted to reconstruct this same sentence pretty much, but just make it female? How would we do that? So female student is just al-talibat, two. And then my khabar would have to be female as well, because we're talking about a female student. Hadiratun, right? Simple enough. What if we wanted to take two of them? Then it would be al-talibatani, right? Once again, al-talibatani, and then hadira would become hadiratani, right? Any endings, keeping them both a rafa, right? Al-talibatani, hadiratani, right? So the two female students are present. Now, if we want to bring it into, the plural case, right? So the female students, this refers to 3 or more. Then how do we do that? We would say al-talibatu, right? Remember, it's an a-to ending. And then ha-li-ra-tu. Again, and hadiratun, right? Atun ending. And that will show that it's in a state of rafa for the female plural, right? Someone's asking, isn't the plural of talib tullab? Yes, that is one of the plurals for it, and it's the most common one. But talibat and talibuna are also there as well. So it's not common, but it is there as well in the language. You can find it in the dictionary. Okay. Now, guys, I know this part might be a little bit overwhelming because we're applying all of the rules at one time. But if you can understand this structure and this structure makes sense to you, give it some time. It takes some time. Go back over it over the weekend. Try and remember it in line with the charts and try and remember it and apply it with the rules that we've learned about sentences so far. And if you can get that, then you're on the right track, inshallah ta'ala. But it will take some time to stick, right? This stuff is going to be overwhelming in the beginning and perhaps a little bit difficult at first as well. Okay. Should the verb match the gender of the maf'ul or fa'il? The verb should match the fa'il, the doer, right? Because they're the one performing the action, right? So does taliban actually mean 2 students? Talibani would mean 2 students. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see. So I'm just going to put this one here at the end. This is just the same thing that we were doing before, but just applying it to verbs, right? So Muhammad helped a student would be Nasara Muhammadun Taliban, right? I know Muhammad is my doer because it's in a state of rafa with the daba ending. And I know the one receiving the assistance is the student, and that's given away by the fatha ending, right? And it's singular. Now, if we brought it into the dual, what would it become? Muhammad is still Muhammad, still my doer, but then it becomes talibaini, becomes the aini ending, right? And it's male. And then in this case, if it's for the plural instance where he's helping multiple students, we have Muhammad as our doer, which is in a state of rafa. Then we have talibina, an ina ending there to represent an ism that's in a state of nasb, but it's multiple people, right? 3 or more. If you go back to your chart, Muslimun, Muslimani, Muslimuna, Musliman, Muslimaini, Muslimina, right? Knowing that chart will help a lot. inshallah. And if you guys have time, just go over this one. It's here as well. It's just a female representation of it. Alhamdulillah. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I know there was an announcement I was supposed to make. I'm just going to scroll back up. Sister Anam had sent it to me. Okay, right. As you guys know, this was our first week of class. And with that, the free access to the content right now is actually going to end. This is actually the last day to sign up. If you are interested in signing up, please contact the admin, Sister Anam, at taqwa.program@gmail.com, and you can have all of your questions answered there. Early today, when would I receive access? If you've already paid, you should be receiving access today, inshallah ta'ala. And again, when you get access, you'll be added to a WhatsApp group that has a Dropbox in the chat description that links you out to all of these notes. It links you out to review sessions that we've done that summarize some of the content here from the textbook. It provides the textbook as well, and it links out to all of these sessions which are recorded. Okay, inshallah ta'ala. If you won't be returning to this class, that's okay. Don't worry. I would appreciate some of your feedback. So if you have any, please message me on the side. I would love to benefit from that. And I would highly encourage you, if this program is not going to work for you, no problem, but please find another program, because learning the Arabic language is integral to your relationship with the Quran, right? And we have had ulama in our past, right? Even people such as Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, who were huge advocates for the necessity to learn the Arabic language, because it gets you a direct connection to the book of God, to connect your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to deepen your prayer, to deepen your reading, and to deepen your life, inshallah ta'ala. And before I dismiss class, I just have a simple question to you guys. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being this is super easy, to 5 being like this is insanely difficult, can you drop what your experience has been like in the last 4 days over in the notes? Okay, cool, cool. All right. Okay, cool. So most people are sitting around kind of like the middle mark, around like, like that 3 to 4, 2 to 3 kind of basis, which is really good, right? You want to sit in a class where you're being challenged, because that shows you to some degree that you are growing, that you're expanding your mind. And perhaps like this class right now is going a little bit fast, which is fair. But one of the things is that if you stick with it and you keep committed and you continue to review and you do the practices when they come out, these things should begin to stick over time, right? It is at the end of the day an intensive, and we can't remove that component of it. If it wasn't an intensive, what we had learned today, honestly, would have been probably stretched out over an entire month. But inshallah ta'ala, if you've picked up stuff and you're able to follow and you have an idea of kind of how this framework is looking, that's amazing. And if you're struggling on some things, you need to refine it, know that this takes some time, but the weekends are there to help you out. So inshallah ta'ala, I'll be posting the take-home assignment for you guys to work on tomorrow. It will be present in the Dropbox, and I'll update you when that's posted. It will be posted with an answer key. So this is something that you're meant to work through on your own. It's not going to be marked, but it prepares you for the in-class quiz that will be done in the first 20 minutes of class on Monday, inshallah ta'ala, where we'll actually assess to see where you're at, inshallah, okay? And these things are going to be a little bit difficult in the beginning, but inshallah ta'ala, as you work with it and you keep at it, like any skill, you'll grow to be able to become adept in it, inshallah ta'ala. Hassan said he would do the signing up for us. Brother Isa, please message Sister Anam about that, and she can help sort you out on that, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, for any of you who don't have any questions, please feel free to exit. It's all good. Class is dismissed. SubhanAllah bihamdihi, SubhanAllah al-azim. And if any of you guys do have questions, I'm here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
From where can I get them for printouts?
Yeah. So in the chat on WhatsApp, if you go to the description, just clicking the bar on the top, it will actually show you that there's a thing called the Dropbox where the class notes are. And if you click on that, you'll be able to find all the notes in there, inshallah. Would you like me to show you? I could share my screen and show you if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I'm a layman as computers are concerned.
Yeah, so over here, you can see my screen right now. I'm in the group. If I just click at the top, then you'll see a description that's over here on the right side. If you click read more, then you'll actually find a section called class notes, which links you to the Dropbox. And if I click that, it will take me to this screen right here. And I can click on week 1 and grab the notes, or I can click on the textbook and check out the textbook as well.
Okay. Would you mind showing me again?
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. So over on WhatsApp,
Yeah.
yeah, if I click the bar at the top,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, what we'll provide is an actual description over here.
Yes.
Then if I click read more and scroll down a little bit, I'll actually find the class notes link right there.
Okay.
Right, if you'd like, I can actually just copy and paste it over to you on WhatsApp, if that's
No
easier for you.
No, there was one more thing. Every time I have to go to your name and get in, where it gives the code. It doesn't give it gives the number, but not the code.
The code, what do you mean by the code, sorry?
And for every ARK in Quill,
Yeah.
there's a number and then there's a passcode. So
Okay, are you talking about a passcode to actually get into the class itself?
Exactly. Every time I have to, go to WhatsApp and I take your name out and, the link that you sent me, then I have to click on it to get into the class.
Okay, that's interesting. That shouldn't be happening because that's turned off. However, for Monday's class, we're going to actually be changing this link. So if it continues, let me know, and then we can look into that further, inshallah.
Yeah, because the number is there, but not the passcode.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull the passcode out and actually include it here in case anyone has that issue.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I came late in.
Yeah, no problem.
Jazakallah.
Wait. Okay, some more questions. Too much time. Yeah. How do we do the test in Arabic? Is Sister Maheen still here? Just making sure. Oh yeah, Sister Maheen. Okay, so how do we do the test in Arabic? Well, we need to use the Arabic keyboard. So we'll need to get us set up the your keyboard on your computer to allow to use Arabic, right? You could just do a quick Google search and it should allow you with some directions on how to figure that out actually, inshallah. Census to masters. Okay. Connected by computer to WhatsApp. I'm not allowed to use WhatsApp for info security. Are you still here? Okay. No, you don't necessarily have to be connected to your computer for WhatsApp. You can connect to your phone. The notes might come out just a little bit ugly there, but if you download them and then just email them to yourself, then you can open it up on a regular Word doc, inshallah. Besides WhatsApp, any other? We'll have to check into that. Ugal, if you could just message Taqwa at program with that request, then we can go ahead and figure that out, inshallah. Oh, wa alaikum salam, Brother Rafi. Okay. All right, guys, with that, I will dismiss class, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.